Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Lioness Den. Look, this is a really um, important and probably a little bit lengthy um, what presentation we have this morning. And so, because of that, I am coming on a tiny bit earlier than usual, just because. Um, hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Lioness Den. I'm sorry about that. Little technical difficulty. Sorry about that. But I want today to be such an amazing day. So I'm coming on a little bit earlier just to make sure that everything gets to play and you get to see all that goes with today. So without further ado, here we go into our Women's History Month event. Look, I'm so happy that you decided to join us this morning right here on the Lioness Den. Look, it's been a whole month. Can you believe it? And we are still out and about on location. This month is all about being on location. Every one of our guests just about is an on location guest. But as usual, before we start, let's get into it. Let's take out our phones. Look, I got mine out here. Let's go to our Facebook and let's begin to like, tag, and share. Look, get all of your folk on here today. This is going to be an amazing episode. We have so many wonderful, exciting things happening on this episode. So get your phone out. Look, got mine's out. I'm on Facebook. I'm going to my messenger right now and I am liking, tagging, and inviting people to join us. So take yours out and you do the same. And here we go. Let's go into the Lioness Den. Hey, look, today we're going into Women's History Month. I am so excited about this episode because I've had a chance to go around to my friends this time and have conversations about their history as women. And so a lot of this episode is going to be pre recorded, but I still want you to tune in, get in the conversation, tell us about the women in your history as we move into this episode. We're going to welcome our first guest, Miss L.A. Wilson, in 1 second. We'll be right back. So, hey guys, welcome to the Lioness Den. We are here today on location, something we don't usually do, but we have come to hang out with my good friend L.A. Wilson, who usually only grace us once a year with her presence. But today she has been so kind to share with us. This is Women's History Month. And so in this good Women's History Month, we want to talk about the women in our history who made us who we are, who have contributed to who we have become. Hey, LA.
Hey.
You look so happy that I came to visit you today. Look at that. Guys, I made a trip all the way from North Carolina. You see how happy she is?
We're gonna go with that.
And so, this is Women's History Month. Last week, we just celebrated you as a figure of women's history.
Yes.
If you don't know, guys, LA is the first lady of the Connect Church of Baltimore. And so on last week, we celebrated her. And with that being said, you've become more of a role model. Would you say?
Oh, I never think of myself as one, but I guess I don't. I don't never that's not in my mind. Do I feel that I have had impact on people? Yes, but like to like say, oh yes, I've been a role model. That's never in the forefront of my mind. So
I think most great people don't start out with being great. They start out with being them.
yeah,
And it just seems to happen that a lot of times when they are recognized as being great, they're gone.
this is true.
So, I would say that your husband has been very intentional in making sure that you know how great you are while you're here.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has. I don't think I could have a better man by my side in that aspect. Yes, he is in private and in public very proud of his wife.
Exactly. And so at this point, you are now a first lady. You are the mom of two grown, successful children. And I can say grown and successful because they are matriculating the way that I think you always intended for them to at this point. And you've become a role model to other ladies, not just in the church, but outside the church. I've talked to you and seen you work with the students at your school. So what made Lucretia or LA?
What made LA? Well, LA became LA on social media because most people still could not pronounce my first name. So LA, and people think my name is Lucretia. It's actually Lucretia. The LA is my first name and my middle initial. So it's Lucretia, Lucretia, not Lucretia. So the LA part came because people kept pronouncing my name wrong. So on social media, I just went with LA. But me as a person, of course, it started the younger years. My grandma, my maternal grandmother, and my mother. So growing up, my mom was a single mom. I spent time with my dad, but of course I lived full time with my mom. And when I, probably up until the age of 7, I actually lived with my mom and my grandma. I was the only child in the house. I had other cousins, but it was like at least a 5 to 6 year age gap.
Oh, wow.
Then there was me, and then another 5 to 6 year age gap before other cousins came. So I sort of had an only child kind of experience till I was about 6, 7. So some would say I was very spoiled. I probably would agree. I was the child that climbed in grandma's bed and slept right under her, like she couldn't roll over because I was there. So I had the best of both worlds, and that I had my mom and my grandma. My grandma was more touchy feely. My mom was more of the disciplinarian, and I was actually a good child, and I didn't start, you know, being a little out there until about 13. So I was actually a good child, but disciplinarian in that, she made school was important, made sure I got things done, and I was rewarded for doing what I tell my children now. And that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to school and get good grades. That's what you're supposed to do. But when I was little, I was rewarded for doing what I was what I was supposed to do. I remember Christmases again. I felt like in retrospect, that I was the only child. The whole living room, because I had that age gap between cousins, was dedicated to me. So I grew up, and understand we were not probably considered middle class. But my mom, I would have thought that my mother was the richest person on earth, because I never experienced lack. And as I got older, my mom explained, because of how she grew up, she made sure that with my mom, I have my younger brother, that neither of us ever experienced what she experienced, and she didn't. Just about anything we asked for, we had. Whether that was clothes, video games, different things in our room, up until when I was pre-teenage, I was into dance and acting. So, we was at the dance camps for the summer, and things, so extracurricular activities. So again, I thought my mother had a wallet full of money. But watching her as a single mom, I understood at a young age, partly, like I recognized that most of my classmates, their parents were together. Like they had mom, when we had field trips, sometimes it was mom, sometimes it was dad, but they were married. Everybody had the same last name. I grew up, it was normal in my family that everybody had different names. everybody had different last names. So watching her navigate life, and I'm sure now as an adult, navigating with a husband, imagining what the stresses she had, but we never seen it. So I am who I am. I tell people all the time that I am my mother more and more. And when I was younger, I used to look more like my father. But as I get older, I'm actually starting to look more like my mom. So my mom was that structure, that what I looked up to, how I patterned parenting after, was my mom. My grandma is cooking, church, and just being selfless. Not that my mom isn't selfless, but grandmas are a little different. Yeah. Grandmas are
they kind of let you get away with everything.
Everything. And then again, remember, I had that gap, so I was like an only child. So so whatever I wanted, grandma was like, oh, give the baby. She's fine. Leave her alone. So again, best of both worlds. But those two women created what I am today, shaped how I live, my work ethic, my parenting. My mom, to my knowledge, always was working, never was without a job, always trying to do better to make sure we had. At the end of the day, it was about her children. She would go without so we could have. Yeah. And so now me and my husband always talk, and we say how our children are privileged to a certain degree. They are very privileged, although we try to instill in them, hey, recognize that you don't have to have this.
Right.
Everybody does not have this access to the things you have. And luckily they went through elementary and middle school with some classmates that didn't have everything they have. So I believe they gained more of an appreciation and could understand what we were saying when we were like, everybody don't get to go. Everybody don't get to do. Everybody can't say, can I have this? And they actually get it on Christmas morning. Right. So while they are very, very, very privileged.
Not very, very, very. That was a lot of varies you put in there.
We try to balance that with getting them to have a level of appreciation and understand how life works. And that my son, we're trying to break him out of it. He always says, my mommy got it. And I go,
of course his mommy has it. Of course his mommy has it. I have a daughter who says the same thing,
That generation.
I have one that says the exact same thing.
Gabby didn't say that, but that age, all you parents out there where the children are about 17, 18, we feel your pain.
We do.
Feel your pain.
We do.
We feel your pain. So Gabby, not so much. Gabby has taken a little from me.
Well, I have to say this. So you guys don't know Grandma Jenny. That's how I'm gonna say it. You guys don't know Grandma Jenny, but there are 3 Grandma Jennies. There is Gabby, the early 20s Grandma Jenny. There is LA, the other Grandma Jenny, and then there's Grandma Jenny. It's 3 generations of the very same person. I like to tell LA that each generation has a little bit smoother corners, and then I talked to Gabby one day and I said maybe not. But it's that way with a lot of families. What I will ask you before we close, because this is only a small segment of the Today Show, what would you say was the greatest quality or characteristic that you got from your grandmother and your mother? The greatest, like I heard you say work ethic, this and that, but the one thing that when you look back, you say, I know that this thing helps me to be exactly who I am.
My grandmother would be Faith. Uh, Definitely where I started my journey was because of my maternal grandmother, so my Faith. Um, my mother and aunt and uncles and them, like, they kept us in church all the time. So most of them are like the holiday saints. They go on Easter, Mother Day, Christmas. But my grandmother, she was in church all the time, and I actually met my husband at the church she spent most of her life at. So my faith definitely because of my grandma. Um, my mom, so many qualities, but I just give her credit, her mothering skills, even though it doesn't come with a handbook. Um, and I'm sure being a mother now, it was days that she didn't know exactly what to do, but as a child, I never saw that. And so I believe the mother I became and what I do for my kids was definitely from watching the mother that she was.
Wow. See, this is Women's History Month, guys, and because it is, usually we go to our history books and pull out all these people we didn't know that may have made some type of impact. But what impact did the women who are around you make in your life? As we go to the next segment, I want you to think about that. Look, we'll be right back with our next guest, and thank you for joining us. So, hey, Lioness Den, we are so happy you've chosen to join us. Look, this is our second guest, and we're here with my sister, Esther Chapman, and we're actually on location again. Everything in this episode will be on location, except for one. I got one remote, but most of it's going to be on location. And so we're here with my sister, who is a woman, not women, but a woman who's a part of women's history. She's a role model to a lot of people. And so I will introduce to some and present to others Miss Esther Chapman. Hey, Esther, how are you today?
Hey, how are you?
Oh, good. Look, thank you for agreeing to be a part of the Lioness Den for our Women History edition. And I wanted to say to you that, in case you did not know, you are a role model to somebody, to a lot of somebodies, to be honest. When I think about all that you've done, from you're a director of daycares, you have taught others how to work in daycare. Esther at one point was even like a professor doing classes for other people learning to come into this field. And so you've done a lot, as far as being a role model. Let's start with this. Why don't you introduce yourself? Because I've introduced you, and I can say a bunch about you because you're my sister, but let's hear your rendition of it.
Hi, my name is Esther, and I love working in childcare. And every area of my life is centered around working with children and families to support our community. That's all. Mother of two, a 15 and a 9-year-old, and soon to be wife, December the 30th. Whoop, whoop. That's all I got.
Y'all, I knew she was going to tell y'all that she's soon to be a wife. My sister got engaged, on New Year's Day.
Yes.
New Year's Eve. I guess they were going into New Year's Day. But as she said, her fiance, because she can only say fiance. No one can say it like her, I promise y'all. Her fiance. So she is soon to be a generate. So, we are congratulating her and super happy for her. It's not every day that you get a second chance. And so we happy for you with your fiance. Look, so with that being said, that leads us into your resiliency. Tell us about the women in your history that helped to shape who you are today.
So the women in my history would be my mom, Julia Chapman, and she was a very, very strong, independent woman. That's what I'll start with. I believe that She surpassed all odds. She never had the I'm down and I can't get up. She always had the mentality that that was yesterday and today we get up and start again. And most of my life, she did the mom thing alone. So she was a very strong, independent woman, and she taught us to be strong and independent. And I would say that sometimes I feel that it makes me too strong because when you meet someone who wants to be that person for you and you are so used to being strong, you have to teach yourself to pull back. So she taught us to be strong. She taught us to support each other. She taught us to be kind. It doesn't take anything for you to speak or give kind words. And that was her foundation. Everywhere she went, she was kind. I never met anybody that met my mother that didn't like her or didn't talk about her because she was just kind. She was a very kind person, very strong person. And she didn't have much. But what I will tell you is what she had, she shared. And she shared when we didn't have enough to share, she still shared. The other very influential woman in my life would be her mother. I find myself a lot like her. She is strong. She was strong. And she was in charge. So I'm still at work and I have parents coming. So I'm going to hit the little switch so that I can get them in. And then I'm going to go back and continue to tell you. So she was very strong. She was very much so in charge. And she liked things to run smoothly. So in my career and my life, I am the same way. I like for it to be structure. When it's structure, you know what to expect. You can kind of roll with the punches. When there's no order, no set way to do it, no expectations, it just becomes chaotic. So in my life, I've always tried to have some structure. Now, have things not gone the way that I've always wanted them to go? And do you get some pitfalls or some hiccups? Absolutely. But as my mother was, you get back up. We didn't have those days where you lay in the bed and woe is me. That wasn't a thing. It was literally you took a little fall, a little knockdown. All right, you get back up and keep fighting. And they taught us that. They taught us that you don't get tired because somebody is depending on you. So when it was just me, I knew that I had to do it for me because at 18, I had moved out of my mother's house. I didn't have a choice of if I was going to work or not work. I moved out of the house and I didn't want to have to go back. So that meant I had to work. And then I wanted to be successful, so I went to school. And in my mind, I thought, oh, I'll do this school thing because my grandmother always said you can't just sit home. You got to go to work or school. So I'll just do this school thing, to kind of keep them quiet. But once I got to school and I was doing pretty good and I didn't have to stay all day, okay, we can do this. So, I proceeded to excel in my studies. I always loved kids, even as a young person. I remember that we were asked to do vacation Bible school, and I probably had children that I was teaching that may have been 2 years younger than me. And in my mind, I'm going, why they put me up here to teach these children? And I'm a kid myself. But it wasn't no thought to them. You're a kid, but get up there and teach this lesson. And I did. And then from there, it was always playing school. I always had a passion to work with children. And everybody cannot work with children. Everybody don't have the patience to work with children. And in my role, I see people, because I interview all the time, and people say, I love children. It's my passion. No, it's not everybody's passion. And when you get in that room and you're dealing with little people, because they are little people who have their own problems, and things go wrong for them too, and they're trying to express it and don't always have the words to tell us what's going on, it can be difficult. The other part is you are working with people's children who don't have the same morals and values that you have. So what you would instill in your kids is not what they're instilling in their kids, and you have to respect the boundaries of what you can teach them. And sometimes it is teaching the parent before you can teach the kid. But in that process, along the way, 25 years, I have met some wonderful people. I have made some good friends, supportive friends. And I will tell you, this weekend that just passed, those same people, some of them 20 years, some of them 13 years, 8 years, were there to support me. And even though I'm not a crier, I was a ball of tears, because the support and the friendship that we made with me just becoming their provider and now part of their circle was amazing. So the relationships that I've created, even when sometimes I had to say no, or sometimes I had to say, I understand that you're not going to agree with this, but this is what we need to do for the benefit of the child. After a while, the rapport and the respect was there, and we became more than just provider client. We became friends. And now people still reach out to me. Some people said, I can't make it to your wedding in Jamaica. And they're coming back to say, Esther, I got to support you. So I'm going to try to make it to the wedding with everything in me. Send me everything. And though that feels really, really, really good. So trying to mimic what I saw my grandmother too give to people. I saw my grandmother sacrifice. She was a pastor's wife, which means she came when the pastor came and she left when the pastor left. I saw phone calls come in when I lived with my grandparents, and it could be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. They were calling for the pastor, but the pastor is sleeping in the bed with the wife, which you ring that phone, you waking them up. But never once did she ever complain, because that was part of her role. And in her role, she knew that it was important for her husband to be available. So she shared all the time. And I find myself, and I don't even understand why sometimes sharing. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And then I look up and I'm doing it anyway. I ain't doing all of that. That's too much. And I look up and I'm doing it anyway. But these people have really instilled and helped me to become the woman that I am today. And last but not least, I was talking to my sister about, I know what my mother's mother, instilled, but sometimes I don't see, all that I got from my father's mother. And she says, you can't see it, but we see it. And as she began to talk, I was like, oh, wow, I never even thought about it. So Laura Naomi Samuels was a very, very quiet lady. She did her things and she made sure things were intact. And she cooked the food and she washed the clothes and she folded the clothes. And she was a Proverbs 31 woman. And so now I find myself doing the same thing. I wash the clothes, I fold the clothes, I put the clothes away. I cook the food. I get up at 5, 4 in the morning. I fix the breakfast, lunch, and a snack. And it's like everybody is prepared because of the preparation that I make sure my family is good. And it doesn't matter if it is my immediate family, my soon-to-be husband, my sisters and niece when they come to visit. If you're in the house, whatever is being fixed, whatever is being prepared, whatever is needed for the house, we're going to share it. And I'm thankful for that because it taught me how to be a wife. It's one thing to be a mother, be an independent woman. It's another whole role to be a good wife. And so this second time around, God has given me so much more. And now I see myself in my father's mother. I see myself preparing and making sure that his life is rich because my life is rich and ready to be a wife and a mother, and a partner and a supporter, because that's what I saw her be. in that field. I saw her be that and more. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the people that poured into my life that allowed me to pour into others' lives.
Look, so I have to kind of backtrack some to what you said, because you said a lot. So let's start with Mommy. So Mommy, I think she poured so much into all of us. I think one of the best things that she poured into us was that she had us for us.
Yes.
That was one of the majors. A lot of people ask us how we stay close, right? They ask us all the time, how y'all stay so close?
A parent asked today.
And we stay so close because my mother literally said, I'm the oldest. And she said, so I had Esther for you. And then when she had Rachel, she told Esther, I had Rachel for you. And then she had 3 more. And each one of us knew that she had the next one for us. But it was also a thing of we had a responsibility for each other. And like I tell people all the time, we didn't always do it, right?
We didn't always like it.
We definitely didn't always like it, right? So, but it taught us unity. It taught us a unity that we don't see everywhere. I mean, we stick together in a way that I've kind of looked for other people to do it. And thought that my mother got it from somewhere else, and then begin to understand that it was something that was in her that she instilled in us. The kindness. The kindness. Like, do you remember us walking to church and Mommy? We would see winos, literally see winos that were laying in the gutter, and my mother would say, speak. And we like, we don't want to speak to them. Why we got to speak to them? And you better speak. And she was serious about it. And she would tell us, it cost you nothing to be kind. And when we were younger, I don't think we got it.
We did it because we knew if we did not do it, there was going to be a consequence.
There was going to be a consequence. Absolutely.
But did we like it? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
It was amazing because it taught us so much. And like today, it has created a family unity like none other. Yeah. Like, for real, I moved away and I come home, and when I come home, I am welcomed home by everybody. It's never I'm not welcomed home, or here she come again. It's always everybody willing to come together, and it's an amazing thing. And so
I would add to that too, that we don't want to sit here and make it seem as if we don't have disagreements.
Absolutely.
But what I would say is, even in disagreement, we know the value of family.
Yes.
So we're not going to disagree and we cut the communication off altogether. Okay, we disagreed. I didn't like what you said. You didn't like what I said. So we're going to move on, and we know that that's an area that maybe we need more time with.
Right.
Maybe we need to deal with it a different way. But we have disagreements, but we never cut the communication. When the communication is cut, the relationship is cut, and then there's a total breakdown. So I'm grateful for that, because I've seen us have some, but it doesn't matter that we have. That's what happens. That's life. That's real life.
Yep.
But she instilled in us that we all we got.
Yeah.
You all you got. So if you have friends, great. But if you never have any outside friends, you have friends within your own home that's going to be your friends.
Absolutely.
And we have held on to that. And we have lived by that.
Yes.
And we've learned to vacation together.
Yes.
We've learned to share in death. We've learned to sharing life, holidays. It don't matter that everybody not happy. We still going to come together because we're family. And in that time, we learn to pray, and God brings us closer and tighter.
Absolutely.
So is our whole family close knit like we're talking about? Oh no, we're family like any other family.
Exactly.
But do we intentionally make sure that we get together and build and stay family? Absolutely. There is nothing that is going to keep us from keeping that line of communication open, because my mother had me a friend, and I got a friend for life.
Absolutely.
A friend for life.
And that's the major thing, when you were talking just now, and I thought about, we used to have forts. Remember, we used to have forts. So my mother had us, we were all in the same room, and she had gotten these chalkboards from somewhere. I don't even know where she got the chalkboards
knows
from.
with mine.
But she got these chalkboards, and we had set these chalkboards up, and we put our pillows in the middle of the chalkboards, and then we put a cover over it, and it was 3 of us, and I had a fort, and Rachel had a fort, and Esther had a fort,
Right next
and
to
then
each
when
other.
we got ready, we go into each other's fort, because we all gonna be in the same space. You know, it was one of those things that she really instilled in us. And as I segue over to Sam's, you know, Sam's was a different type. She wasn't like
Yes,
Mommy.
Lord.
She was different than Mommy. She was in charge, always in charge. She had a way.
And she was short, and she wanted to make sure that nobody thought that they were in charge because of her stature.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
although she was little,
She had a little
was
Napoleon
big.
complex. She had a little
big.
Napoleon complex that you were not going to make her small because she was small.
Yes.
But she was such a big personality.
Yes.
Like, I think of all the things that she used to do with us. You talk about being in childcare, but I remember her doing Children's Day with us.
Children's Day, yeah.
Constantly. We had fun times and we had non-fun
Oh, yes.
times. But she was
better
doing
come
it.
to that rehearsal
you gonna,
right.
You're going to be in rehearsal. You're going to sing a song. You're going to,
Learn your
you're going to
part.
learn your part, and you're going to get up there in your white dress or whatever color she had chose for that year, and you're going to do your part.
That's right.
You know, and they raised us in church, so everything in our lives were centered around church.
That's right.
And so when you got to Sam's, you knew exactly what you were going to get because Charles was in charge. And that was one of her favorite TV shows, and she made sure everybody knew that she was Charles.
She was in charge.
But if you ever watched Charles in charge, Charles was never in charge. Just the FYI.
okay.
If you've ever seen it, Charles was never in charge. It was just the name of the show. With that being said, Laura Naomi. Now, my sister did not see it, but my sister literally has so many ways like her. And it's so strange to me, you know, because we stayed with her for a period when we were younger. And I remember her every morning, you would hear her feet sashay across the floor. Swish, 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 swish. She would go to the kitchen and she would make sausage and put them in a bowl. She would make eggs or whatever, put them in a bowl. And then she would have some popcorn and that would be in a bowl. She would leave the kettle on for Granddaddy Ralph's coffee. Because Granddaddy Ralph, by the time we were staying with her, he was retired. So he would have coffee. He would have the water and stuff, his coffee already made. And I watch my sister, especially this time since I'm, you know, on location. And she gets up and I hear her come down the steps. Swish, swish, swish. She making breakfast. She getting it together. She's making Nia a breakfast, and she's making sure that there's breakfast for everybody in the house. But Nia, you know, she's special, so she wants a special breakfast. She's not gonna have the same breakfast as everybody else. And then she makes lunch, and then she sashay back upstairs, just like my grandmother, get herself ready, go out to work, take everybody where they're going, and she goes to work. And it is literally a carbon copy of Laura Naomi. A carbon copy, because then she comes in and she'll make dinner. She comes in and she makes sure everything is done for church, because she's going to make sure that we get to church when we got to go to church, right? And that was Laura Naomi. Laura Naomi was that woman. She had her own order, but it was a specific way. Like, there was a specific way her house had to be. Don't turn something on her table because she had it where it needs to be. Don't go in her bathroom and mess up where Jean at today. Don't go in her bathroom and mess up because she going to be upset.
Oh, yeah.
Esther is the exact same way. Like, everything has its specific place. And so I was so surprised when she said she didn't see herself, but she didn't see the correlation because she's so much like her. I mean, I think than any of the rest of us. You probably have more of Laura Naomi in you with the way you do things. Even when you walk around your house. I was talking to Tony this morning and I said, I can tell you the things that my sister not gonna have. She is not gonna have clothes on the chair next to the bed. That is a no-no. I have a dirty clothes hamper for that. It needs to go where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Lydia might have clothes on the chair. I'm not even going to lie to you. I might have some clothes on the chair. They ain't going to be on the floor, but they're going to be on the chair. Esther is not going to have it. That was Laura Naomi. Laura Naomi was not going to have a half-dry towel. You want to see her get upset? Let the towel come out. She going to say, that towel is tepid. You go, I didn't even know what tepid meant. Tepid is when it's not quite dry, it's still damp.
Yes.
And she can't have a towel come out the dryer that's tepid. It must go back.
Yes.
because she doesn't want it to go into the closet and then smell later on.
Yes, like mildew.
Like mildew. My sister does the exact same thing. So when I tell you she has some ways like our grandmother and our mother, she has some ways. And I think we all do. But think about how our history has shaped us. Right? So many times when we do things like this, we go and get a history book and start pulling out women, or we doing Black history. We have our own Black history right here in front of us. It has made us the women we are today. And my sister, she talked about what she does, but if you see how she mentors. So who's going to, in 10 years and 15 years, talk about how Esther helped them to be who they are? I know my daughter will, because she talk about it now. But who else is going to say, you know, I went into child care because of Miss Esther?
I think it will be some, because my daughter dibbles and dabs in it now. She actually is in a program. She chose her high school, which was not my choice. But she chose it, and she went into the child care program. And the one thing that the teacher said is she helps other people to do their work. She understands the field. And I'm assuming she understands it so much because she's watched you from a little girl in the field. So when Licia walks into the daycare, she knows what's supposed to be done or what's not supposed to be done. And a lot of my college students or graduated from high school, if they come into the daycare, they can tell you right away, oh no, we're not supposed to do that. Aunt Esther don't do that. Or no, that's not how Tooneytown does it. Because they know what the rules are. Today my niece was here. A parent came late. And you can drop off late, but you have to have a note. So the first thing she did was open the door for him and say, you have your note with you? And he was like, it's Miss Esther here. But they know the rules. They also know tone. They know that children are supposed to be treated a certain way. And it's not from me hammering it over. It's because they have watched me, you know, work with kids. And I have a lot of kids. I have kids that are in Sunday school with me. They came from being with me in daycare. So to be able to not just help them to learn and grow in everyday society, but to also introduce them to God is, you know, a wonderful feeling, because we all need God. And anybody that's looking at the time know that we're in the last days. So to be able to go from being their daycare provider to being their Sunday school teacher to being a mentor, or now a aunt, because a lot of them call me Aunt Esther, is a wonderful thing. So it'll be people that'll be able to definitely say how. And it's important to leave that legacy, to leave that so they too can mentor. They too can share. Because you don't just get to keep it, you got to share it with someone when someone has done it for you.
So we appreciate you for sharing this time with us. Look, as I said in the last segment, as we switch to and pivot to our next guest, I want you to think about who's in your life, who's left an indelible impression upon you. What woman made you or contributed to who you are? And how have you contributed to someone else? Look, we're about to switch to our next guest in a moment. And before we go there, I want you guys to remember Life Happens is coming this year, October the 24th. Miss Esther, Miss Glenisa, and Tooneytown, they are sponsors for the conference. They've been sponsors for the last 3 years. So I'm going to put the flyer up. You're going to see it in a second. But look, go over to lifehappens1.com. Register today. This year, we're talking about power.
Power.
Where does your power lie? Let's get in the room and let's learn about our power. Look, see you in a minute right after this commercial. It's here again, Life Happens 2026, and this year we're doing power. Register today, get in the room, and find your power. So, hey guys, look, we are back now with our next guest. I told you that this is going to be an on location. This is our third location just about today. But guess what? We are here with my very good friend of over 20 years, Miss Dina Cruz Connor. Hey, Dina, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Could you introduce yourself to the audience for me, please?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Dina Cruz Connor. What else do you want to know?
Okay. Look, we can get into a more in detail conversation where she'll introduce herself more closely, more in detail in a second. But we've been talking about Women's History Month and our own history. I think in each of these, I've talked about how that many times when we get to Women's History Month, we actually go to get books and talk about people who, but we have our own women's history.
Absolutely.
And our history is what makes us who we are.
That is very true.
And so the question today is, what women in your history, well, before we get to the question, let's talk a tiny bit before I get there. So you are a mother, a minister, an auntie. You are, who else are you?
A big sister, a friend. I am technically a stepmom, although we hate using that title. Wow. I think that's about it. I'm a godmom. Yeah.
And so with all of the titles that describe you, because, they are titles that describe who Dina is, what women in your life contributed to who you have become?
Well, honestly, because my family is so matriarchal, we had very few men in my family. So I would, of course, have to say my mother, my grandmother, my great aunt. Of course, I would have to say some of my dear friends, because you all have walked a mile in my you walked a mile with me, helped me through my sisters. So yeah, some of my teachers and some people have been mentors for me. So it's been a number of strong women in my life that I can truly say that I'm grateful for, and they helped shape me to who I am today.
So with that being said, there is, I would say, how do I say this the best way? There are some main characters in your story. So what we are trying to drill down to is, tell us about the main characters in the story of Dina Cruz Connor that would contribute to this Women's History Month. And when I say that, I talked to my sister earlier. We talked about my mother, my grandmother, but we noticed that there are characteristics that we picked up directly from these main characters.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us
Absolutely.
about some of the main characters that cause you to be who you are, and the characteristics possibly that came out of those different characters.
Wow. Okay. I can say my mother, of course, has the biggest influence on me. I am my mother's only child. So for a great deal of my life, it was just she and I. She has had the biggest influence. I've always seen her working. I've always seen her persevere. I've always seen her be resilient. I've always seen her be a class act. We tease my mother and call her Dominique Devereaux, because my mother is a very, very classy, elegant lady. She's also the heart of the family. She's the hardest working woman that I've ever known. She did not retire until she had worked for 50 plus years for the federal government. My mom has been an amazing resource. And not only did she work, but she was busy with recreation. She was very active in my life. She was very, very vocal, very supportive. So my mother is definitely the strongest person in my life. Somebody that may surprise people, though, is my stepmother. Her name is Sharon Cruz, and Sharon has been the walking embodiment of love in my life. She is supportive. She is loving. She is compassionate. She taught me what it was like to have engrafted family. She taught me what it was like to love on people that did not necessarily want to be loved. She taught me what it was like to be patient with people and allow them to come around to being in a relationship with you. She taught me perseverance. She taught me how to study the Bible and to live according to the Word of God. She has a whole. She gave me practical life experience for what a wife and a mother would be, as did my mom. As far as being a mother, all the women in my life have been strong women that have relationships with God. My great aunt Blanche was the one who brought me to church. She was the one who introduced me to God and introduced me to a relationship with Christ and showed me what that looked like. My sister Tracy is not only my sister, younger sister, but she is a pastor's wife, and she is a phenomenal person outside of just being a woman who loves God. And she has made such an impact on my life as far as forgiveness and healing and friendship and learning how to just live before God and be the same person all the time. My sister Keisha has taught me how to love and to embrace and to live life and just to be joyful. My bestie Lydia has taught me how to just be strong, how to love on family, how to continue to go, how to dream big and go after what it is that God has for you. I have so many wonderful women in my life. My daughter has taught me how to persevere, how to stand strong, how to be true to who I am, how to love God and just be a woman of character. She's helped me with resilience and integrity like you would not imagine. And I'm just thankful for my village. I have so many loving women in my life until I'm truly overwhelmed. I mean, now the names are starting to flood and the things that they brought into my life, but I'm thankful for each and every one of the women in my life through my formative years and even now, my sister circle with Verita and Keisha and Ona and Randy and Ranika. And I have so many that I'm just so, and Shayla, I'm so grateful for all of them. I'm so thankful for those that continue to push me, those that continue to help me to shape who I am, to try new things, for Shalise Hemby and for Kelly Blackwell, for Crystal. I'm so grateful for all of them because they have loved on me and shown me what it is to just step out and try, to not walk in fear, but to really just trust God and take the step.
It is really amazing that you kind of ran down the whole list, right? No, for real. Think about it. We talk about women's history, but we make history every day.
Yeah.
What's going on today, what's going on this moment is history in the next moment.
Sure.
And so when it comes down to women's history, a lot of times we tend to focus in on those people who made what we would characterize as monumental change to humanity sometimes. But I think personally, they are great women and we take nothing away from them. But there are times when we really need to sit down and go into our own history.
Yeah.
Because as me and my sister were talking earlier about, we were kind of talking about women's history, but also reminiscent of the mornings that we woke up and my grandmother was shuffling across the floor, and the things she did and how especially Esther. She didn't realize how much she was like my grandmother, Laura Naomi. So she actually has the exact same routine. She has the exact same routine as my grandmother, because she gets up at 5 a.m., a little bit before sometimes. She prepares breakfast and everything for the family before she goes to work. Then she gets ready, she goes to work, she drops people off. Then she gets off and comes home and make dinner, and then she goes to church. It's the exact same routine as my grandmother. And she had likened herself to my mother and my mother's mother, but she hadn't thought about my father's mother as much until we started going through the routine. With you, how do you see the Miss Juanita days? Because Miss Juanita was my friend, y'all. How do you see the Miss Juanita days? You know, some days we wake up and we can see our history in front of us, through us.
Yeah.
How do you see the Miss Juanita days?
Oh my goodness. Miss Juanita was my grandmother, my mother's mother, and she was phenomenal. She was the woman that would get up early and clean her house from top to bottom, open all the windows, and you could smell bleach from everywhere. She would have the music playing, and she would have her westerns on, or she would be, she was a big football fan, so she would have football going if it was during football season. But my grandmother was one who loved caring for her home, and I find myself doing that. I find myself at least once or twice a week, because I still work full time, but I find myself opening up all the windows and turning on the music and cleaning the house from top to bottom, and you can smell the bleach going through, or the Fabuloso, or whatever it is. And then after that, we're usually worried about what we're gonna make for dinner, and that was also her thing. So she is one of those people that I very much relate to when it comes to that.
Hey guys, if you are paying attention, we seem to have a common theme going across all of the interviews that we've done for this particular episode, because you have that woman in your history that introduced you to Christ. You have that woman in your history that introduced you to how you keep your home, or how you're in your relationship. You have that woman who has given you that work ethic, right? So Esther talked about work ethic earlier. Lucretia, because she made it very clear on her interview that that she's talking about the work ethic of her mom. Dina has talked about the work ethic of her mom. So this is why it's so important for us to be very cognizant of our own personal history.
Yeah.
Why? Because someone someday will be talking about what they learned from us.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It tickles me, because when you asked that, the first person that came to my mind about how my day goes and what I implement into my life, honestly, is Sharon.
Really?
Yes, because I can remember I lived with my dad as an adult for a period of time, and I remember seeing her get up in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and she would just take time and sit in her word before she started her day. And that's one of the things that I love to do when it's quiet. Just go and read and sit and pray and get your mind right before you just start with all the things that you have to do for the day. Now, I'm not cooking breakfast first thing in the morning.
No breakfast.
But
hey, we still have people who do.
I'm not doing that one. That's not me. I'm the dinner girl.
Look, Lucretia told us out. She actually makes breakfast. Esther makes breakfast. Maybe it's their birthday months that they, push them into the breakfast
I'm the dinner
thing.
person. I will take care of dinner. I'm usually cooking dinner when I'm working. I'll run and start dinner at my lunchtime and make sure that it's done by the time I get off work, because I work from home. But it's amazing how I can think of how she has just those little things, My mom was a Saturday, let's open the windows and clean the house, and turn on the music and play the R&B, the old school stuff. So that those little things you do pick up from them, and it's amazing.
Absolutely. It's like that when it's happening, of course, it doesn't make an impression.
Mm-hmm.
But as you get older and you begin to reminisce and you begin to see yourself do things, you can see them. Like sometimes I can see, my grandmother swishing around.
Yeah.
Because she had a way of getting up in those slippers and you would still be asleep, but you could hear this all on the floor because that's what she was doing. I can see my mother. My mother, she was the one who was going to do everything. My mother was a jack of all trades. She could do just about anything.
Yes, indeed.
And so if you look at her children now, she has a little bit of everything in us. We can go from working on cars, because my brothers, they both are dibble and dabble and working on cars. We cook. She cooked all the time. I sew, I crochet. My mother was a seamstress and she crochet. We're all very personable, but it came from my mother.
Yeah, same. All of us crochet. I remember when my grandmother retired, my mom was crocheting first. And then Aunt Blanche crocheted. My mom crocheted. She taught my grandmother. And at one point, we would all sit around the table and crochet, and I still do till this day. So it's something that I love to do and something that's been passed down and taught to us through the generations. It's a wonderful thing. I truly do thank God for those types of memories.
Yeah.
But I can also remember my father's mother, Grandma Virginia. She was the singer.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
She was the singer. So it'd be nothing for her to be in the house and singing in the house. And she was always on the choirs and always encouraging. So it came from both sides.
This is the first time, because we've talked about, on Mother's Day, we always talk about mothers and stuff. But this is the first time you've talked about your dad's mom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, see, it's amazing what we remember as we go along. Because a lot of times, you have those things in the forefront of your mind that they are always there when you first think. And then as you begin to think about your personal history, you just go, oh, yeah, but this person did that. If we listen to Dina, she ran down like 20 people at the beginning of the interview of who's in her history, her history book.
Yeah.
But we always have to remember that, we're writing history right now.
Amen.
Okay. Not to be all churchy, but the Bible says we're epistles read and known. And so that's where our history is going, where someone will one day say, this is what Dina did. And so this is what I'm going to do. Do you see yourself as a role model?
Ooh. I want to say no. But I know that there are people that watch me. I know that there are people that are encouraged by some of the things that I have gone through and I've shared. There are people that I counsel, being an elder at the church. There are people that I have had the opportunity to mentor. So role model is such a strong word, but sort of.
I brought that up because I wanted to say one of the things I've been saying through just about all of these interviews is how great people really don't see themselves as great.
Yeah.
People who make impressions, a lot of time they're just doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't think that I am actually making this impression. I'm just doing what I do. And so a lot of times we don't realize how it affects other people and change their lives. And that's how we become a part of their history, because you don't even know the change that you have started in a person. They just saw you and said, oh, I want to be like that. They got over that. I can get over this too.
Yeah.
And now you become etched in their history of who they are.
Yeah.
And we have so many people who've become etched in our history of who we are at this point. So as I've said at the end of every other interview I've done, I want you to take this moment as we pivot to our next guest, and I want you to think about who has made the impression on you. Who is in your history? Who has caused you to be who you are? Who is that example of resilience that really, really pushes you every time you get up and do it all over again? Think about that as we pivot to our next guest. Hey, thank you for coming, Dina.
Thank you for
I actually
having
came
me.
to her because we're on location. This is our third location, y'all. We got one more, and then this episode is going to be over. But so far, it's been amazing. So thank you so much. And I know we're going to see her again this year because we see her a few times a year anyway. So thank you, everybody. Hold on. Our next guest is on the way. Hey guys, look, we are back again. And as I told you, this particular episode, we have been in person with all of our interviews. And this is our, what you call it, toss-up interview. I don't know what you to call it. But we decided to go all the way to California. I want to introduce to everyone Miss Tony Jimenez. This is her first time here at the Lioness Den. Hi, Tony.
Hello.
Tony, can you introduce yourself to everyone?
What did you say? I'm sorry to hear that.
I said, Tony, can you introduce yourself to everyone?
Oh, yes. I'm Tony. Let's see. How long have we known each other, Lydia? Like, it's been a minute now.
It's been at least 10 years because I think Julia was 7.
Isn't that crazy? Because Julia was like 7. Wow. Yes, I'm Tony. I met Lydia when I actually lived in Maryland. And I ended up coming back home because of family obligations. And I'm now back home in California. I don't have much else to say for introductions.
Okay. Hey, we just want, we know a little bit more about you now. And so to just move forward with, this month is Women's History Month. And what we've been doing for this month's episode of the Lioness Den is we're talking to everyone about your women's history. You know, what makes you you as a woman. And so I'll ask you the question I've asked everyone else. What woman or women in your history has caused you to be who you are? They have made the most impact on Tony.
This one's really easy for me just because I come from such a family of strong women. Obviously, I would start with my grandmother because she is the foundation. She is the rock of all things Tony. I was grandma's baby, so I was blessed. I literally never came home to an empty house. I got to come home to my grandmother every single day. And I could climb in her lap and just tell her everything from all my troubles to all my wins, or anything that ever happened. And she would just give advice or she would give cuddles. Only time we fought is when she put Vicks Vapor Rub on me because I still can't use it to this day. But my grandmother is such an amazing woman because she came up from Texas to California, and she came up in a time where women weren't really encouraged to go out and get things for themselves. They would usually let their husbands go do things and usually stood behind their man, but didn't necessarily take a forward role. But for my grandmother, she wanted to be a beautician. And so she told my grandfather, just build me a salon in the garage and leave me alone. And he was a smart enough man to do that. So my grandmother actually went to cosmetology school and she paid for it herself by doing babysitting jobs. And she became a licensed cosmetologist and she had her own business for years and years. So just that spirit that she wanted to do something for herself and her drive, it has always been so inspiring and so admirable, especially coming up in the time that she did. Because let's see, grandma left this earth, she was 94, and that was in I think she was here, I think she left 2018, like right, 2018, 2019, right before the pandemic. So grandma was born back in the day.
Hey, this, you know, our grandmothers, I think, passed close in proximity.
Yes, they did.
Because you came here to Maryland, my grandmother's funeral, and then I turned around and ended up
came out here from behind. Yes, it was
your grandmother. It was very
our favorite time, but we definitely got to enjoy each other's grandmas for a little bit. Yes.
You know, please continue because I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, you're good. Oh, yeah. So grandma definitely is the beginning of the story. And then you get to her oldest daughter, which is Aunt Mary. And my Aunt Mary, I've never met anyone like my Aunt Mary. She had such a gentle strength that I have never experienced before in the way she did things. Like Aunt Mary would never repeated herself. She would say, hey, I'm making this and y'all gonna eat it. And I was the kid who always talked back. Like I was the it was like, I bet you I'm not gonna eat it. Like, but when Aunt Mary gave a directive, you just knew. No, you don't want to go up against that because she mean what she say. But like my Aunt Mary, I never heard her curse. She got up, she went to church every Sunday, went to Bible school, was so devout to her religion and her the practices of religion, but still was open-minded enough to come to my same-sex wedding. Like, and I just always like, I never ever understood like how Aunt Mary could be so strong with just like her presentation of herself, and yet have this gentle grace about her at the same time as well. And like I have so many women in my family, and all of us get together and we always talk about like we want to have the heart of grandmother and the grace of Aunt Mary, and if you put those two things together, you're pretty much winning. And then that would bring me directly into my mom, Sheila, where she literally is the combination of her mom and her sister, because they're 19 years apart. So she grew up with two mamas, right? Like, it's so funny. There's a story where my grandmother and my Aunt Mary were pregnant at the same time. So my mom and her nephew are like 6 months apart. So like they grew up like brother and sister. Yes. So since mommy grew up with those two strong women, you see them in her, like, because they both have transitioned on to the next part of this thing we call life. But I feel like they're still here just when I watch my mom in those quiet moments when she doesn't know I'm watching her, and I can see she does things just like her mother or just like her sister. And she now is what we would call our matriarch. All things go through mommy, and she handles it in ways I know I never could, because I get overwhelmed much quicker than my mother. I tend to want to be more smart mouthed than my mother, but she, like, even when things don't make sense, she still will listen and try to give advice and try to speak positivity and light into folks. And I can, like, when she gets off of the phone with certain conversations, I'll be like, Mommy, did you mean what you said? Because that was really sweet, but did you really mean that? And she always tell me, mind your business. Just why don't you just worry about answering that? That's what you worry about. Mind your business. But and it's so funny because a lot of my cousins all come to me, and my sisters will come to me and say, you're gonna be the next matriarch after mom. And I say, yeah, it's a legacy gonna go when she go. Y'all better buckle up.
Hey, no, by the time you get to that age, you'll be doing the exact same thing. That's one of the things. That's one of the things we've been discussing, like who you see in you, yes. Right? Because as you move along, I was discussing with my sister in an earlier segment how she does the exact same thing that my grandmother did. So my grandmother on my father's side, she would get up at 5 a.m. and she would sashay across the floor and she would make breakfast. Then she would get ready. She would go to work, but she would also always make sure that my grandfather had a breakfast and he had coffee and everything. He could come down and get it because he was retired. And so then she would come back in, she would do dinner and be ready for church. And my sister, when we started the conversation, she was like, I really don't see myself in Laura Naomi. And then as the conversation, I was like, no, I see all of her in you. Like every single thing that she did, you do, and so I guess my next question would lead me to, in your daily things that you do, who pops up all the time in your daily life? Because we all have that one family member or the multiple family members that we go, oh yeah, I did this. Or so for you, who would that be? Or who is in when I say who, what, it could be a bunch of them or it could be one, but who do you see when you move around?
I would definitely say the standout one is my grandmother. I love to cook because of her. And like you've even said, you could put a 20-minute meal together better than anybody else I know. That literally comes from hanging out with my grandmother in the kitchen. I always tell the story that my family had stopped eating my grandmother's cooking when I turned about 13. And because grandma used to cook all of the, holiday meals, but grandma was in a wheelchair. So I was her legs and feet. So therefore, they haven't eaten my cooking since about 13. But every year they would praise Grandma. Oh, you did it. You did it again. You're just so good. Oh, I can't believe this. How do you do it? And I just would sit there just bitter. Just bitter. Because I was
Bitter Betty.
all she did was say, put this here and put that there and grab a little more. She ain't stopped cooking anymore, folks. But yeah, like I still have all her old recipes. Most of them I know by heart. And just in my interactions, like I have friends who I've been friends with literally since kindergarten, and that's grandma. Because my grandma didn't know a stranger. She literally, everyone was always welcome, and she fed you. She made sure that you had a little piece of love before you left her home. And even though I'm not as sweet as her, I still have those traits.
Just as sweet as she was.
No, and that's all right. I don't think they make them that sweet anymore. I don't.
Yeah. So I'll say this about Tony. So Tony, even though she says she's not sweet, I've known Tony for a good 10 years. I've worked with Tony, and Tony happens to be one of the sweetest people you could meet. A quick tidbit. I remember how, at work, I was not always the most patient person. Tony was always the one that was like, no, it'll be because of this. And she would give a nice little, story to give someone another chance when I'm like, yeah, we're there now with this person.
I think that's why we work so well together, though, because Lydia, at work, you become like a manager. You like, we got a task, we got to get it done. Do what I say, and it's done. And I'm more of the, well, how do you feel about it? Well, how do we engage you in the task we're doing? And Lydia would always say, we ain't got time for that.
I think that's the Miss Lois in you that so when you say
100%. 100%.
I've seen you exhibit these things. So I'm like,
yes,
she's saying that, but I've actually seen you show tremendous kindness,
thank you.
tremendous love and understanding, to people who sometimes was not quite as understanding with you. And some of them, they had just gone their last mile of the way, but you gave them one more mile to go.
Yes.
It is a testament to who you are and what you've been taught, and that's kind of been it's been a theme throughout all of these interviews, when we look back on the women in our history. What a lot of people, and I know this about you, so I'm giving you a pointed question right now. A pointed question that I know the answer to.
Okay.
A lot of the conversations I've had, everyone has talked about how mom really worked to make sure that we had what we need. And how we learned that work ethic from mom. Tell us, because I know your mom, but I want you to tell us about, because I want you to tell us about Miss Sheila and the work ethic that she taught you.
I'll give you 3 stories, and it'll give you the perfect picture of Miss Sheila. So, unfortunately or fortunately, when I was in high school, my mom went back to college. And she struggled because math had changed and English wasn't quite the same, at least taught not quite the same. And I was an honor student. So and school pretty much came easy for me. I think we have that in common. So when mommy would come home and she'd be struggling with her homework, I say, well, let me see it. And then I wrote so many of those papers. I helped her with so much of that homework that when she got her associate's degree, I said that degree should be ours. But that was from a child in high school's perspective. Now that I'm a 40 plus year old woman, I'm like, she had 2 kids, 2 adopted kids, a husband, ran a household, was at that point in management at work, and took on college. Who are you? But that my mom is a go-getter. Nothing stops that woman. If she gets it in her mind, she wants to do something, it shall be done. And her family will not suffer or will not be the back burner. She's going to make sure it all happens, even if she has to phone a friend and say, hey, baby girl is doing this. I need somebody there to show up for her. So you're going to go, right? And she makes sure. So anything I ever did, any performance, anything, if my mom wasn't in the audience, my grandmother was there, my aunt was there, somebody was always there to cheer me on, because it was important to her that she always says, I didn't ask for my children to be here. I chose for them to be here. So she made sure she showed up for us in times where I think I probably would have said, I'm tired. I don't think I'm gonna make it.
Talk about what you gonna say. But no,
the second story I'll give you is my mother actually retired early so that she could be a caregiver for her mother when she realized her mom was put on hospice and the transition was inevitable. She literally stepped away from her career that she worked so hard that she made it to the director level, because being there for her mom and that last time was way more important to her. And that forever changed me, because, we're taught to be goal-oriented and to drive our careers. And the more we achieve success, the more we want to get more. But to watch her achieve some of the highest levels where you're a director of human resources and to walk away from it all because my mom was getting ready to leave here and I need to go be with her. I was just like taken aback, like, wow, that lady she's a bad woman right there. And then I'll give you the last story. So after grandma transitions, what does Miss Sheila do? She takes on a whole new career path, and she goes back to school and she gets her certificate in behavioral health and returns to the workforce so that she could be a counselor for people who are ex-substance abusers or just who have had a bad deal of cards in life and are trying to put themselves back together. And she would help them do job placement and just counseling. And she literally would have clients, is what they would call them, who wanted to I don't, even though I'm done with the program and I'm now more stable, can I just know you? Can we still be in connection? Because you have changed my life so much. And they always would tell her, your kids and your family are so lucky that they have you. And she'd always come home why do you think people say that about me? And I'm always like, girl, you know why? Come on. But that's literally mom. And even though I don't necessarily have career aspirations like my mother, because watching her work her butt off to become a director let me know management probably will never be for me. I can still see her work ethic in me.
Interesting that you said management would never be for you. Guys, just to let you know, she's in management already, but she's in management. But we're gonna leave that subject alone. We're gonna leave it alone.
Unhappily in management.
We'll leave it alone. But it's kind of been a theme for us this episode. This is not Mother's Day month, but this is Women's History Month.
Right.
And the strength of the women that we grew up around, it really makes us resilient, Yes. It helps us to bounce back. I mean, I know the story of your mom, so I know how resilient she has been through, throughout your life, especially the last 10 years.
Yes.
When I first met her in Maryland, when she came,
yes,
I always thought just her story was wonderful. The fact that she just did so much and she really had so little to do so much with.
Yes.
Right? And so that's amazing. And all the women we've discussed during this episode have been amazing. I have to touch on this before we finish with Miss Tony. Y'all, I want y'all to notice that she is sleeveless. This is just a little sidebar here. It's not a part of our conversation. She's sleeveless on the West Coast at what's the temperature over there, Ms. Tony?
We are currently at 89 degrees at 5:22 in the afternoon.
So this is a pre-tape episode. because she is in California. It is 8:22 in Maryland, and we are currently at about 42 degrees. And very jealous of Miss Tony at 89 degrees. That's just a sidebar. It has nothing to do with our subject. But if you ever watch the Lioness Den, you know that there are times when I go off on my own tangent. This happens to be one of those times.
You just saw the sleeveless and couldn't help yourself.
I can no longer, just sit here and look at the sun in the background, knowing how chilly it is here in Maryland today. But as I have said through each of these interviews, I want to encourage you that as you listen to us and look at us and hear what we're saying, I want you to take a look at your own history, and those who have caused you, who have pushed you to be who you are, and the characteristics that you've developed from those, those people, those women, because this is Women's History Month. And I want you to draw off the strength that they had, and understand that you too have that same strength. Look, guys, I love you all, and this Women's History Month has been a very touching one for us, just because it gives us a chance to look back at who we are, and we get to see who came before us and actually see them in us.
Yes.
That's an amazing thing. I mean, you would agree, Tony, that it's just so amazing. It's so amazing that
it's amazing, and it's so fulfilling, especially since we've all experienced our loved ones, our heroes have transitioned on, so we don't physically have them here anymore. So you just cherish it even more.
Yeah.
You every time I do something, or you know this about me, but I wear a lot of gaudy jewelry, a lot of sparkles, a lot of gems, and that's grandma. I change my hair every month. That's my grandmother. I played in her wigs as a kid. I played in her jewelry as a kid. And no, it didn't happen. I didn't intentionally do that. I just looked back to my childhood and I said, yeah, I think I want to do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really it. It's to this month, as we, because a lot of times, as I said on the others, we go in books and pull out people. Oh, this person made a change. But I want you to focus this year on the person, the woman that impacted you.
Yes.
That impacted you personally, that touched you personally and helped you to become who you are. The great person, the great woman that you are. I want you to remember the woman or the women who helped you to be that. Look, we're about to end this episode of The Lioness Den. But before we go, I do want to remind you that Life Happens is coming up. And this year we are talking about power. Look, Miss Tony's going to like what I'm about to put on the screen. That's why I'm doing it while she's here. This year we decided to do a comic strip, more or less, superhero flyer for Life Happens, because we're talking about power. And who better to tell us or to exude power than our superhero selves, our superhero alter ego, for lack of a better word. And so, hey guys, I need you to go over to lifehappens1.com. Register today. Registration has already opened. This is our early bird special, and I want you to come over. Register today. Get in the room. Let's talk about where your power lies. We are working on mental resets this year. Let's reset our mind, reset our mouth, so that we can obtain the power in our hands that comes through us. Look, guys, we love you all tremendously, and we will see you next month, the third Saturday of April, where we will discuss autism awareness. Autism awareness. April is Autism Awareness Month, and we will have Mr. Alonzo Chapman and Miss Kenya Sullivan here with us again to discuss autism awareness. Thank you to Miss Tony for being here. Thank you to Esther Chapman. Thank you to Ellie Wilson. Thank you to Dina Cruz. Cruz Connor. I have to always remember, when you need some names. Thank you to you all for joining us again and making this episode such a momentous and great episode. We will see you all next month right here on the Lioness Den. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.